Aloha family, this is your boy Gerald. It is Sunday evening here in Hawaii, the 19th of February 2023, and I hope you're well. In the background you'll hear the raindrops fall. As I mentioned in my last video, we were waiting for a downpour to come in a couple days ago, and it's been like stepping into the shower where you lay your head, and it's been hard, and then it's been quiet, and then it's been off and on, but it's been consistent. So that's a good thing, because I'm a firm believer you can also find peace in listening to the sound. I hope your week was well. And when you see this video, you'll be stepping into a new week. And with that, I hope that week it finds you blessed. It gives you peace of mind. It gives you focus. But more importantly, it allows thought by way of transparency. I'm saying this, and I'm giving this salutation to the intended heart, intended mind. I know that for some of you, life feels like being on a proverbial emotional seesaw. 1 minute you're up, 1 minute you're down, and you're just trying to figure out not only the rhythm of your life, but more importantly, the balance that requires it. Before I decided to pick up my phone and record this, two thoughts crossed my mind. The first thought was from legendary icon Stevie Wonder, and he had a song called Where I Go They Can't Go, or is it Where I Go They Can't Go? And I've always been a big admirer of Stevie Wonder's work, and even though I've been around for a little bit, I made first of all, one of my first passion is to serve the Most High. You may know the Creator under many names. You may know as God. For those, you may know and acknowledge as Jehovah. For others, may be Muhammad. Whatever your deity is that you acknowledge and requirement of being your best self. And through that first thought, it made me wonder, or the question was posed on my spirit, what does life look like in regards to the journey that I'm on right now? And how does that have the foundation that makes my reality? The understanding, the navigation needed as you set forth to engage what is waiting for you on the other side of your door. It's 2023, family, and I can only reach you one way, and that is through transparency. The same person that is speaking to you. First of all, everything that is conveyed comes from spirit. Nothing is wrote down. That is only transpired through my heart, because we are nothing but living vessels of the Most High's ultimate choice of work to fulfill His will. But one thing that has always, I kind of had to scratch my head proverbially, because I can only apply it to myself, because I only have the responsibility of myself, my life, and the actions that I do. And the connectivity that it has by choice. Even though every person on this earthly realm is afforded free will. Who am I talking to? So we have choice. We have the opportunity to decide what is best for us. But let's ponder a minute. What if there are distractions from our life that is preventing us to have clarity? What if one of those distractive tools has a way of triggering or a stimulus of what is congregated within your mind? Because we only use 6%. Only 6. So adding that with what makes your day to day, it makes it more imperative that you are able to critically think. Now, I say this because for some, we are quote unquote late bloomers, or we have not been exposed by way of experience to make sound judgment. So, for those caught in that paradigm, it is very easy to be impressionable. Hold that thought. Here's why I pose that question. Because we live in a reality, 4D, soon to be 5D, where there are those who feel less is more. And they don't want you to one day decide to have the conversation within yourself. You know, the person in the mirror looking back that greets you every day. They don't want you to be in tune with that person, because they know the moment that that correlation occurs, you're going to be forever changed. I remember back in 2012, and I was at my lowest emotional state because I had invested in someone, and optimism was at my paramount state. You know, For some, they call it the wounded bird syndrome. And for those who don't know what the wounded bird syndrome is, instead of, I'll spare you the analogy, it is more or less you instantly, or you, instead of looking at things from a logical standpoint, you allow your emotions to take precedence. So, in other words, instead of seeing things from an objective state, that allows assumption by way of optimism to influence said decisions. Who am I talking to? Now, for some, that is nothing but a reflection of what's found in your heart. But for others, they see that as a weakness, and they can't afford for you to understand what is being perpetuated in your environment. Why? Because it benefits them. You know, I kind of mentioned this in my last video. That's why there are examples of lack of communication met with unfortunate pushback. That's why the things you genuinely need, it feels like with some people that have access to your life, pulling teeth. I'm here to tell you right off the bat, you don't deserve that. That is why, from a scriptural standpoint, that's why it was already written down. Those who are last will be made first, and those who are first will be made last. Why? Because there's always an opportunity to learn. So that requires transition, a period of reflection. Life without reflection is nothing more than repetitive behavior. Now, I say that because you're looking at a person back in 2012. You know, I mentioned that. There were plenty of people of social media influence that were promoting behaviors such as, oh, to get over them, you can get over someone else. And people were applying that. But what they were overlooking was at what expense. It's still you giving of self from a physical, a financial, emotional. And it doesn't benefit you at all. If anything, it makes you more vulnerable. Why am I saying this? I'm going to say this. From those in 2023 that believe that there's no such thing as a spiritual realm, those who have a mindset that they believe that if I don't feel it tangibly, it does not exist. And I try to explain to each and every one of you, well, try to rationalize the air that fills your body, or your sacred heart that pumps your beloved bloodstream through your vital organs so that you exist. Can't see it. But you damn sure feel it now, don't you? Because figuratively, if you didn't, it wouldn't matter because you would not be here. And unfortunately, there is an agenda that has been going on very, very strong for the last 5 years, but it really started to kick off in 2012 to convince you that the same mindset and mentality that was illustrated through the generations are applicable today. And I'm here to tell you, like I said back in 2013, when the fool realizes there is a God, the earth will shake. Has she not? Look at all the anomalies going on with the weather. Look at all the things that have been played out in front of you to convince you that there must be some logical reason why it occurs. But yet, we still don't have the cure to the common cold. Actually, we do, because even the Most High said, everything that man needs is found in the earth. I let that sink in. And I believe it. That is the one thing that scientists cannot refute. Because we can also say this, and I'm going to jump off of it. There's no money in cures. We know that. But the greatest dose of medicine that you'll ever be able to possess, to consume, and treasure is love. Love. Now imagine what the world would look like if everyone, at a minimum, did that. Do you realize how different communication would be? Because truth would be in front of it. And as I use the example by hip-hop group The Migos, rest in peace, Takeoff, walk it like I talk it. What if people walked it like they talked it? That means there would be a lot of realities shown, which would require a lot of reset, a lot of correction. But more importantly, there would be balance and ultimately peace. Why am I saying this? I say this for a couple reasons. Queen, I love you. Always have, always will. And I would say this to my daughter if I had access to my daughter, but I don't. And because I don't, I understand that all things happen in due time. And I'm patient. I'm truly patient. So I would convey this to every female that I came in contact. Number one, you were made perfect. Don't believe me? See, society wants you to have a less than mindset. And by having a less than mindset, you'll always be in need. But it's not until you decide to truly embrace the person in the mirror looking back for who you are can you see how much you are justly meant to be loved. But it cannot happen until you love yourself. Now, I know some of you are saying, well, Gerald, you're romanticizing again and you don't understand because you're not a woman. And I'll turn around and refute that right back, and I'll tell you right now. What you see illustrated in the magazines, in the videos, conveyed on social media, on all platforms, that's an illusion. Because if it was real, you wouldn't need makeup. You just come right out the door as you should be. But because the devil's a liar, and he will only give you what you want and never what you need, the brutal truth is this. You're starting to watch those same people that are leaned on their own insecurities, and guess what's happening? They're starting to genetically morph. They're not looking human. They're becoming more cat-like or reptilian-like. Why? Because the Most High made you perfect. And you don't believe me? Here's an example. For those in the melanated community, hear my voice. There was a time where anything remotely looked or had your likeness, it was shunned. It was not supported. But when you look at society today, especially in the fashion industry, all your genetical code is there. Just different shades now. The same people that would say, oh no, we can't have someone that looks organic walking down the aisle. Well, you look at the industry now, the only thing done is they spun it and this European with a melanated features. What happened? Why? Because you can't fake an original. You can try. That's why the term imitation is flattery. No, it's never was. Why am I saying this? Because for some that hear the sound of my voice, you'll come to understand this. You know how you hear the term, I came into my prime. I was in my prime. You're in your prime when you decide to claim yourself. You were made perfect. Where do you think the term girl next door came from? Because the girl next door, she's grounded. She's home. She's home in her spirit. She's home in her heart. She doesn't require additives needed. She's natural. Why? Because she was made perfect. Hold that thought. I say this because there's always been an agenda to divest you from yourself. And that is why all the movements that are out here, positions that are mad, that are being claimed, the underlying denominator, they're all mad. They're all angry. They're all bitter. They're all numb. Why? Because they feel they're not being heard. And there'll be a new one. You blink twice, there'll be two more. and they'll be trying to reset the social dictionary. They'll try, but at the end of the day, by taking a position of defiance, you're basically saying that your mother, who bore you, brought you life into this world by way of your father, they made a mistake. Which means your grandmother, who conceived your mother or your father, made a mistake. I'm here to tell you, you're not a mistake. You never was. You're a blessing, but you can't see it until you decide to claim you. Now, I know there's somebody that's saying, because if you're a millennial, you're not going to get it yet, because right now, when you're in your 20s, you're part of the mainstream and you're just excited to do things on your own. You're tasting independence without responsibility. Who am I talking to? You're using what was conveyed to you at a younger age as a tool to try to navigate your life, but it attracts the same environment that will hold you back. Who am I talking to? See, that's the one thing that I kind of wished those who are spiritually aware would have the courage to talk about. But it's because we live and the Most High gave you free will, the right to choose. Should I go right? Should I go left? Should I stay grounded? Should I go forward? Or should I look behind me from whence I came for understanding? Queen, you don't need validation from what's outside your door. Your validation is found within you, and it is represented every time. It is validated every time you take a breath. Why? Because from a small validation point, it is affording you opportunity to continue on. That is nothing more to say, hey, you got work to do. You got things to embrace and claim in your own special way. Why? Because we're talking about your life story. Does it surprise you in 2023? They say 64% of women walking around this planet are sexually frustrated. Now I'm not trying to turn left and make this another discussion, but I will tell you this. You know why you're frustrated? Because you're not being heard. You're not being heard because the communication skills that you may have or the style that you use is not being reciprocated. And if it's not being reciprocated, how can you have validation? And if you can't have validation, how are you able to feel safe in your environment? Who am I talking to? But if you leave it to social media, they say you got to be this tall and you got to look this way and you got to have this accolade. And I'm here to tell you, there are plenty of people that have drank from that Kool-Aid proverbially, and they miserable. They didn't see. They didn't see the decisions that they would have to make to stay relevant in that environment. Of course, that was a small print. Why? Because it wasn't what you needed all along. Why am I saying this? Queens, I love you. I would say this to my daughter if I could talk to her. But society has convinced you that though you are very intelligent, extremely intelligent, but you gravitate from an emotional perspective, and men from a logical perspective. But it has no bearing or merit if God is not in front of it. Who am I talking to? If you don't have a relationship with your spirituality, how can you understand the foundation that makes your reality? How can you understand to be able to navigate to see where you're going? Excuse me. To understand what is taking place so that you are able to critically make the best decision for you. See, that is the discussion I wish those who have the responsibility or have been afforded the responsibility to talk about. But most people won't. Why? Because they are living from or gravitating from an earthly realm. I'm not going to mess up my algorithm because it's going to mess my check up. But guess what? You don't have peace of mind. And what is a decision without peace of mind? It's impulse. It's sporadic. And you shouldn't go through that. And I'm saying this because I've been on here for a minute. Queen, stop allowing artificial influence by way of visual stimulation to justify or your next decision. Stop. I'm really trying because my heart hurts. It really does. Because I'm tired of seeing you queens make decisions unnecessarily and pay for prices that you shouldn't. And the only thing that comes out of it is the visceral reaction when reality does not equate to the decision made. Can I caveat from this real quick? Why do you think we have Karens in society today? Because we have Kens too. But why do you think they exist? Number one, it's because their logic doesn't add up. The things that truly spawn focus and understanding was never supported. Why? Because it was based off of influence socially. And you know what's sad about having a environment that does not support you? It brings a lot of fear, don't it? It brings a lot of regret and anguish. And what happens? No different than a child, you act out. Why? Because you want to be acknowledged in some form, even if it's manifested through bad behavior. Well, at least they acknowledged that they took note I existed. Now imagine for Karen and Kim. They genuinely came from an environment where people actually gave a damn about what they said and how they went about life. And because they valued having access into their life, they said, hey, what about this? What about that? What made you decide to go that route? Or what sparked that reaction? Their life would be totally different. Now here's a big one. For those that are in relationships that are less than or lackluster. Because you have 50% of people that are in relationships they only got with these people because of what they were able to provide. Who am I talking to? Yeah, those people. Oh, I'm only with Sarah because she has this job here and she can afford me access to here because I'm unable to do it. But I'm not going to tell her that because that will require integrity of me to want to do it for myself. That's where status comes into play. That's where ego comes into play. That's where pride lives. But guess what? All those examples, those people are broken. Those people have so much resentment and disappointment with themselves because they are more or less in an emotional tailspin and they're unable to find closure or resolution to change it. Because if they could, they would. They would. That's why they say, doesn't matter how much money no amount of money in the world can put a smile on your face when it's pure. But see, society wants you to be a clone emotionally. It wants you to go through the motions, don't say nothing, be condescending but politically correct, do your job and go home, and then repeat. I'm here to tell you, if that's the mindset and the mentality that you have to obtain the things you want, I'm here to tell you, you are going to be miserable. You may be able to have the facade to obtain those things, but you're going to have resentment when you look back and say, well, you know what? What if I did that myself? What if I took that step? I just took a step back and just reflected. What if I just decided, instead of being with the fold, the clique, the group, what if I just decide to do me and entertain myself? I'll just say, I'm just going to stay home, you know. What if I just decide to pamper myself? That used to be a trait that women used to do all the time. And you would see it because most women that invested in themselves would have a natural glow. They would have a natural peace about them. You could tell. Why? Because these women loved themselves. They saw the value of themselves. And they saw the benefit of deciding to invest in them. That's why I say all the time, there is a difference between being selfish and selfless. See, when you're selfish, it doesn't last. It's temporary. And usually the price to access it is far more than you're willing to invest. But see, when you're selfless, you know that if you legitimately invest in the things that make you feel insecure, you are going to be empowered. You are going to be able to tap into your discernment. And you are going to see what makes you unique. Who am I talking to? Think about it this way. If it wasn't the case, why are there so many women in today's society got something to say and energy and time to project it on social media? Why does it matter if it doesn't have applicability to your life? If it doesn't add or enhance what is already made available in your life, why are you focusing on it? Why do you care? Why? It's because you know that's what you lack. But it doesn't always have to be that way. Because I would be remiss to say this. For those that know, women do not dress for men. They dress for validation within yourselves. That is what pushes the fashion industry. That is what motivates the revenue generated of false uniqueness. And that is why, unfortunately, you have so many women today that are broken, that are insecure, that think because society has convinced you that you are lacking when in actuality you are fulfilled. You do understand that the devil's a lie, right? Everything that is being projected in society is really done deliberately so that you will embrace it, so that you will not come into your own. Think about it. If society took the same energy and tools to spotlight you, the girl next door, uninhibited in your raw state, do you think that the surgeons would get paid? No. This is like that's just like a sculptor and he has a raw form of marble. In their mind, his or her, whoever the sculptor is, why would I turn around and modify what I envisioned when I didn't need to anyway? It's the same. Why would you turn around and give your time, your resource, your health, your mortality to someone that doesn't have to walk in your shoes, does not have to deal with the recourse of decisions made. Because they don't care. They don't care. They're doing a job. And guess what? Unfortunately, in a town near you, in a city near you, a state, worldwide, there are women waking up with the reality of regret of deciding to take the cheap route or the cheat sheet. They are. Well, I gotta go do this and obtain that to get him. Well, let me tell you something. All that trickery may work, but it's temporary. Because think about it. Think about those people who gravitate and navigate life on the earthly realm that have asset or access to, because that's all monetary gain is access. The ability to be able to do something from a financial stance or state other than the communal arena. If that was the case, all those multimillionaires and such, all those people that have a moniker of status, why are they miserable? Why is it that their marriages and relationships fall apart just as quick as they are acknowledged? Why? I'll tell you why. Because the Most High already knew. And is only going to afford you opportunity to claim you, to protect you. But you can't have that until you acknowledge what does not work, what you need. Think about it. Think about it. You think all those young girls, women that decided to enter in the longest profession would do so if they truly saw their uniqueness, if they truly had a connection with themselves emotionally? Think about it. I ain't trying to sound dark, but when you choose not to invest in yourself and to overlook and not acknowledge what you need, you inherit a longing. And that longing, as long as that longing is there within inside you, it builds a resentment. And as long as that resentment is there, it affords impulse. And until you're able to truthfully look at what you don't want, what you don't need, the behavior has longevity and access to your life. I think about all the girls that was convinced that, oh, I don't need a male presence in my life. I don't want to have a relationship with my father. I don't need a man in my life. Only to settle for a dialogue that depletes you. What do you think soul ties are? Who am I talking to? And I'm not trying to sound graphic, but I got to go there. Because I know some women will use arrogance. Well, you don't understand. I got what I want. I got him. And our intimacy is phenomenal from a physical standpoint, but I still feel lonely. Who am I talking to? Why? Because it ain't blessed. And the worst thing that you can do is perpetuate a mindset. 'Cause look, I'm going to stop where I'm at right here. Everything that you're seeing in today's reality, it is because of the Jezebel spirit. For those who do not know what the Jezebel spirit is, Jezebel was a beautiful woman, and she denounced the Most High. She used her mortality to manipulate her social status, and all that did was curse her lineage. And she ended up having a painful death because she navigated her way all the way to attract a king. His name was Ahab, which you would know in today's society or colloquialism as a beta. He's like, okay, whatever you want. He was so sprung on her beauty and took her neglect that she convinced him he was less than. And unfortunately, like I said, she had a violent life, a violent death. And that's playing out in today's society today. Millennials, I know I've said a lot. You know you're living in an imbalance when your generation is being cut short in the most heinous ways. And there are platforms that celebrate that for financial gain. They don't see your worth and they don't care because they treat you like Lay's potato chips. Don't matter, we'll make more. There'll be somebody else. Or proverbially, there'll be a young, impressionable person that'll say, I want to be just like you. But they don't inherit their walk. We hear it all the time. I'm just going to say this. I hope one day when you're able to process what I'm saying, you'll also allow yourself to be vulnerable, to make a mental inventory on the things you've seen and acknowledge did not work. Because if you don't, that means your existence did not matter. That means everything you endured was in vain. That's why there's so many people walking around with vengeful spirits. But those are the same people that you, if you were to, a stranger was to ask and they see them troubled, what's wrong? They couldn't even formulate that in a response. Short, to the point. Projecting pain. Are you tired of being in pain? You deserve to be treasured. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to be protected. And that's the one thing I will say. I kind of regret, but Kevin Samuels didn't speak on. And I get it. He was trying to protect you from you. Because society only wants to destroy you. Society don't want you to have your light bulb moment. Society doesn't want you to change your life. Society does not want you to earn the right to become someone's mother. I wish I had enough insight. I would have looked it up. You realize how many millennials are barren now? You're barren. Can't have kids. But you hear some people say, well, you know what, I'll get a surrogate. Okay. That's not always guaranteed. Vitro is not always guaranteed. King, I got a video for you coming. Just know I love each and every one of you. You deserve to have the best life ever. But it matters not until you decide you deserve it yourself. And take on the responsibility that is needed to change it. If not, you can be like Kwame Brown, use coins the phrase, be a part of the get along, because misery loves company. But the one sad thing about that is they'll never tell you what you need because they don't see it in themselves. So why would they afford you the opportunity to change your life knowing that it will divide you from them? If you're feeling what I'm saying, give me a thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down. But I do ask that for those who don't feel, do not understand, at least give me the common decency. Drop me a line. Inbox me. It's private. And afford me the opportunity to give you a conversation. I think you're worth it because you're blessed. But it'll never come to be until you claim you first. Have a blessed week. Peace.